Hello, beautiful lights, and welcome to another episode of From a Medium's Perspective. Today we have a sound healer coming to us from the UK. Her name is Jennifer Warters, and she's a member of the Rainbow Light Trust, part of a larger Rainbow Light network that was founded by Carol Lamb. Both Jennifer and Carol have been on the show before. Their organization, the Rainbow Light Trust, is a healing and teaching organization. Their members both live and work together in a spiritual community in the northern part of England. She's had a lot of experiences as a therapist, and she has a particular interest in sound therapy and proficient at and specializes in toning. She runs an international online clinic for successful treatment of tinnitus and is a senior tutor for the Quantum Light Training Program. And you've just stepped into a new level of authority or responsibility, I should say, at the Rainbow Light Trust. Is that right?
Yes, I manage the Quantum Light program and the Academy of Spiritual Sciences School of the Air now. So, which I thoroughly enjoy, and we've got teachers ready to teach online. So that's sort of been a recent development.
Oh, congratulations on that. They're lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, for the listeners that would like to find you on the web, it's rainbowlighttrust.net. Tell us a little bit about what started your interest in working with sound.
Well, I began my professional life. I was a speech and language therapist. So I was interested in communication, and I had a special interest in working with adults with learning disabilities and children with special needs. And a lot of the clients that I worked with, or we called them patients because I worked in hospitals and community settings, they didn't have any actual speech. They couldn't use speech, but they could make sounds. So I used to make sounds with them to get a response. And I found that sometimes by working on an enjoyable shared focus, something that they wanted to do, rather than actually concentrating on the difficulties they had with speech, because orthodox speech and language therapy tends to work with the impairment. So if you can't make sounds or make words, they use words to try and get you to connect to language. I decided that we needed to do something and take the flashlight away from the difficulty that the child or the adult was having, and we do something enjoyable. And I found that doing something enjoyable and having lots of laughter and fun, that the speech started to develop because they started to relax.
Oh, that makes total sense to me, because energy follows focus.
Yes.
And so if we focus on what's wrong, then it just becomes larger and larger and larger for us. But when we focus on things that are positive and progress, that's a lovely approach.
So I did lots of creative things, and I did dressing up and play, because I'd sort of trained originally at a drama school in London because I really wanted to be an actress, but my father wanted me to have a proper job. So I went into speech. I went into speech and language therapy, but I loved to play and dress up, and my patients enjoyed this too. But what happened was that I was at cross purposes with the speech and language therapy departments, because they said I wasn't a proper therapist because I wasn't working in an orthodox way. So I thought, things were happening, but I didn't understand what was happening. So I thought I need to get some training. I needed to get some counselling training so that I could learn to listen to the parents, because I found that when mums were really distressed, if I made a cup of tea and sat and listened to the mum and then just let the child play, as the mothers relaxed and found they had somebody to talk to who wasn't making judgments about them, the child's communication improved. So I thought, there's something in this. I need to know how to do this better and how to be a better listener, and to understand why, when the child was focusing or the adult was focusing on something enjoyable, actually impairment was beginning to be restored, and I didn't understand why. So then I went and trained in holistic therapy to understand metaphysics, which is beyond the physical to find out what was really happening. And that's when I discovered a lot more about consciousness.
Yes.
And consciousness is just a waft and weave of light and sound.
Beautiful. I want to emphasize that for our listeners. Consciousness is a weave of light and sound.
Yes.
I thought that's an incredible, well put, and interesting way to put that too. Yes.
Well, sound is sort of all the sacred traditions saw sound as the origin of creation. And now I understand, I studied with Carol and I studied with the Academy of Spiritual Sciences, which is why it's so wonderful for me to be teaching it and sort of managing it and coordinating it now, because that's how I began my sort of new journey. So I've discovered that sound was the origin of creation, and that
just to interject, even in Christianity, in the beginning was the Word.
That's it.
The Word was God, and the Word was with God.
That's right. In the beginning was the Word. That's right. It's in Genesis. It's in the Bible, isn't it?
Yes.
And the alchemist said that everything, the ancient alchemist said that everything came from one pure ripple of vibration from an original, divine, creative force.
And we talk about, I feel your vibe, or I'm picking up on a lower vibration or a higher vibration. And it is all about that, isn't it?
That's right, because we're made of sound. So it makes sense to me that if we're made of sound, then we can be healed by sound.
Yeah, a lot of times people... Yeah, I know. I was thinking a lot of times people talk about being a light worker or being of the light, but we do forget that there is light and sound.
Yes,
too.
When they're both, it's sort of manifested as vibration. If we think of sound as energy in motion, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates, and everything vibrates at its own vibratory rate. And the ancient people knew all about this, and they knew the effect of sound upon the body. And as they experimented, they used reeds and bells, and they hollowed out pipes and drums.
I'm thinking of the didgeridoo of the Aborigines, yes, and the panpipes of the Peruvian people.
That's right, the Amazonian Indians, that's right, and the Native Americans. And they realized, and they used gongs and bowls, and the Brits used bowls, and they realized that sound releases tension from the physical body, and it releases anxiety from the mind. And they knew this. So when I decided to study metaphysics, I began to tap into this, and I thought it was wonderful. And I thought, well, I'm going to start using this with my clients. And I also trained in counseling so that I could be a better listener, really. How to listen naturally without getting into counselor mode,
yes,
and just trying to get to the source of somebody's pain by mirroring back things that they say to you. And then what happens? You're in a time frame, so that you at the end of this time, you say, right, that's enough. And this poor person has brought everything up from the past. So it's going round and round their head and in their energy field, as though their entrails are hanging out. And then they have to leave. So I use energy alignment now with everybody I speak to, so that I can align the energy afterwards. So at least, hopefully, they leave better than the state they were in when they arrived.
I'm quite sure. When you were talking about sound, I thought about how drums and different instruments resonate at different levels of our body. They kind of vibrate our chakras, for lack of a better word.
They vibrate through the spine, don't they?
Yes.
And of course, every sound, because sound triggers memories.
Yes, Jennifer, we very quickly have come to the bottom of the hour. We'll be back in just a few minutes with more with Jennifer Warters.
Now, back to our show, From a Medium's Perspective, with host, Reverend Tracey Lockwood.
Welcome back. Today's guest is Jennifer Warters from the Rainbow Light Trust. If you missed the first part of the show and you'd like to listen to other past episodes, you can find them on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and put in Medium Tracey Lockwood. And usually within a few days after the broadcast, we have it edited and up on YouTube. And there are lots and lots of other interesting topics as well. So please subscribe. So Jennifer Warters, I want to welcome you back to our show. Take it away.
What I'd like to sort of tell you really is how the toning came to me. The Rainbow Light Trust is a guided organisation which was founded by Carol Lamb, and Carol was initially contacted through guidance in her clinic through a client who was with her, and the guide from a higher level was connecting to her to take her through to the next stage of her work. And she then established Rainbow Light Foundation, which became Rainbow Light Trust, and that was the organisation that I joined. So to receive the guidance, I had to train to master my energy, really. And I had to study the anatomy of the human energy field to understand how higher frequencies are downloaded through our auric field. I was being trained to enable me to hear the guidance. I mean, I wasn't aware of that at that time. But after about a year, the guide asked to see me. So I had to actually go into the presence of this guidance. And he told me that he would guide me step by step, and I had to be patient. And then he gave me, over a period of weeks, a chakra toning system. I mean, I'd never heard of toning. I didn't know what it was. And he gave me a system of tones, and he told me to teach the therapists of the organisation. There are about 25 of them. And then it was the tones then that I took into my work. So my work expanded very quickly after that. And then I started to develop the tones and to use this system.
And you're referring to a spiritual guide, not physical
guide. Yes, no, it's a physical guide.
Wow, what an incredible volume of information and an incredible system.
Well, it's clearly strange, because I can remember being in the presence, because when you're in the presence of certain guidance, depending on what level it's from, you can feel your energy expanding. But it made me realize that we're obviously prepared for this through previous incarnations, because I can't think why. I just sort of accepted it and did as I was told, and was sort of obedient to what I was told. Whereas I'm just thinking of my own family. If somebody had been put through that experience, I mean, they would have run a mile. So it's quite strange in a way. I think we're prepared through lives for the work that we're doing now. I don't know what you think about that.
No, I do as well. I think that may be part of our spiritual contract that we enter into before we come into this life, that we agree to pass through certain pressures and changes, maybe much like a gauntlet is the proof of someone reaching manhood, or, people like to challenge themselves with climbing and scaling great mountains or taking hikes or things that seem kind of extreme, but test our mettle and do give us a sense of accomplishment and perspective from having been there.
And then I think we have to go through a discipline process to enable us to sort of hold the frequency. But we also have to be prepared to be obedient and follow the guidance and surrender to it. People don't like that word surrender, do they?
No, they don't. But, it's a very subtle, small, still voice that we hear. And, developing that confidence starts with simple things like take your umbrella, and you start arguing in your head, I don't need my umbrella, I don't like to carry extra things.
Exactly.
And then it rains, and that process of moving from the spontaneous to the disciplined is important in mediumship as well, because you can have spontaneous occurrences, but do you regulate your own energies and the energies that are affecting you? How do you manage when you're under pressure to be able to continue to function well under more extreme conditions?
And I think people don't realize that we've got a lower mind which is about the physical material world, and we have a higher mind, and we've got to get into those higher frequencies, and the higher mind is beyond the ego. And we've got to surrender to that. I think the only reason it goes wrong is ego. I mean, I know the ego is a very definite part of our makeup, but the ego has to know its place, and it should be the servant, not the master.
Exactly.
And I think we're willful and we don't listen and we only do what we want to do.
I still argue. I try not to. Like, you would think, this is my profession.
It's human, I think.
But I still occasionally will balk at something. And I think it is our ego. That guidance is for our highest good. It's not because they want submission in the sense of loss of your will. It's a willing submission to realizing that guidance takes us to that highest vibrational place. It takes us to the best possible outcome. It is the shortest distance between 2 points, even if it doesn't look that way to us.
And it's all about surrender. I think people are frightened of that word because I think they feel it means that they'll lose their identity.
That's a good point.
They feel that they'll lose their identity, but it's about, unless we do surrender, we can't connect. Because if we can connect to higher frequencies, then we can download them. The moment we're in argument, we lose that connection.
Yes.
If somebody intellectualizes or argues, then they're not in their higher mind, even though they think they are.
Exactly. I often say you have to let go of your ego and your intellect in order to be able to hear. But as scary as that process maybe sounds, because people are afraid, oh, maybe I'll go crazy, or I'll be vulnerable, or maybe something bad will happen. None of that happens. What happens is we connect to our higher identity of who we are. And that is so much better than our temporal identity that is.
That's right. But
highly defended.
We've got to sustain it. So you've got to allow your energy, on a daily basis, and be prepared to do it. And that's the discipline.
Absolutely. Right. The discipline is being able to sustain that contact with the subconscious to be able to let it guide us. Yes. And I mean that in terms of not just our own subconscious, but the connection to other higher-minded beings too.
But it's interesting, because I was thinking about tinnitus. A lot of that is about the call of the soul. It's about it's a tone or a call that's a reminder that we need to get back on track. And I believe it's linked to spiritual conflict.
I agree with you, and I also think that it's a sign of someone unfolding or awakening or reconnecting, because if you think of it, it's almost like your being is being tuned to receive a higher frequency. And just like changing altitude too greatly can cause altitude sickness, or coming up from the deep waters of the ocean too fast can cause the bends. I think it's a symptom of adapting to a higher frequency.
Absolutely.
Too. And I find it so interesting that physical manifestation of our body that is a sign of a spiritual awakening can be healed by toning. That just is mind-blowing to me.
Because what the toning does, it attunes the individual to the higher frequencies, to that signal, so they can hear that signal, tunes you to that signal.
Yeah, so it sort of calls the vibration of your being into harmonic resonance with the high. Oh, very interesting.
That's right. It harmonizes the dissonance so that you can tune into the signal. And that's why I use color as well, because color is a sort of another manifestation of light. Because every color resonates with the sort of the rainbow spectrum. And of course we perceive color with our eyes, but also we can feel it because every color has a vibration. But color also, it stimulates the root of the pineal gland.
Oh, very interesting.
Which then sort of expands our creative awareness and our perception. I mean, the Persians knew all about this, and they used a specific sound, the E, the double E sound, because that stimulates the nasal septum and it stimulates the root of the pineal gland. So using colour as well, it enhances the process. That's why people don't understand why somebody who's sort of visually impaired can actually feel colours.
Yes, they do have a resonance.
I used to work with adults with learning disabilities, and often they were sort of severely visually impaired or blind, and I needed to wear different colours. One man had lost his mother, and he was very much in the sort of fetal position most of the time, and self-harmed. But if I wore floral materially, clothes and skirts in floral material, it just calmed him.
Wow. I did an episode on angels just recently, and one of the things that I ran across in prepping for the program was that our chakras resonate to the vibrations of different angelic hosts, that our root chakra resonates to the archangels, and our crown chakra resonates to the seraphim. And I thought, wow, like we always dismiss like, oh, the root chakra, it's lower. We need it for grounding, but it's kind of base. But every color is important, isn't it?
But its higher vibration of the root chakra is pure white light.
Absolutely. The combination of all the chakras is that divine light, that pure white divine light.
That's right. There's sort of the lower this physical earth rainbow, and there's the higher colors. So each chakra color vibrates at a higher frequency, which resonates with the higher rays.
Yeah, and as a medium, we think of the chakras as being the interface between the two worlds. It's sort of the plug-in between the physical world and the non-physical
and the subtle
world.
energy.
Yes, being able to receive information through that.
That's right, to metabolize that flow. It's fascinating, isn't it? Don't you love it?
It is. I love it so much.
When I work with somebody with tinnitus, I introduce the treatment through what I call a preparation pack, which is alignment and just one tone, because often if I give them a program of tones, it's too much for them. I take the coordinates of their name, their date of birth, their place of birth, and if they have it, the time of birth, and I meditate and ask for specific tones for that particular person, and also specific colours. And they have 3 tones and 3 colours, but often a full toning program, and it takes 3 weeks to eradicate the tinnitus. But also they have to go through making changes to their own life, to the character of their life, because tinnitus is stress related. So they need to make a commitment to changing their lifestyle often to reduce the stress in their life. And then I can harmonize the dissonances, or they can, with the toning. And what it does, it releases resistance patterns. It disturbs them and brings them up to the surface for release, so they can release the resistance to aligning to their path.
Yeah, it's all about that resistance, isn't it?
It is, yes. It's subconscious resistance that we aren't even aware of. And sometimes if somebody is sort of quite analytical, it's much harder for them because they want to understand the process. And to make choices, you need to go into your higher intuitive self. You can't analyze the choices. Absolutely. Because you just go round in a loop and the door won't open for you. So you have to intuitively make a decision with your heart. And once you've made a decision, opportunities will come to you to take you to where you want to go.
Yes. I think resistance is an impediment, obviously, for our spiritual awakening and unfolding, but even for manifestation of things that we want in the physical world, it's our resistance that creates that disharmonic.
That's right. It's a fear of moving forward.
Yes, and a lack of identity.
What you're accustomed to.
Pardon?
And letting go of what you're accustomed to. We're in a comfort zone, and often we don't like to step out of that zone to go into the unknown. It's scary for a lot of people. It is.
It's funny, we might be unhappy with where we are, but God forbid we make a change.
Yeah, that's right. Better the devil we know than.
But we do. We get comfortable in our disharmonic chaos sometimes because we've learned to navigate and survive. But there's so much more to life than survival.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it opens up a whole new vista. And we've got to change our belief system, because our belief system, based on past negative experience, influences our perception.
Yes.
Which influences our actions. So often we've got to change our belief system to see things in a different way. Often I've been working with people and their faulty belief system has been, well, I've tried so many things and nothing works. And it's like, if you believe that nothing works, then nothing will work.
Right, exactly. There's so much more to it than just dinging a bell or singing a note to change what's going on. It's
Absolutely
an incredibly profound matrix that interweaves with all things metaphysical, and quantum physics is part of that. And
that's right. It's what they call epigenetics.
Yes.
Now they're saying that, well, now we know that our thoughts can influence our genes, so we can change our genes, and the health of our chakra is determined by the quality of our thoughts and actions.
I know the auric field reflects that change because it's evident in the colors that are visible within somebody's auric field, and the types of motion, the clarity of their colors. And I guess that goes right back to the frequency that they're emitting as a being of sound and light.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know whether I have time just to take people through a toning alignment, have I? I'll just make each tone 3 times. And the bass has 2 tones. Garrrr, garrrr, garrrr.
Yeah, I could feel that in each of the chakras as you moved up in my body. Thank you so much. Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for leaving us with that beautiful attunement. We appreciate it so much. If you'd like to reach Jennifer, you can find her at the rainbowlighttrust.net. And if you'd like to reach me, you can find me at mediumtracylockwood.com. And look forward to seeing you next week. Remember, it's never inappropriate to be kind, and without integrity, you have nothing.